A very good evening to one and all present, and welcome to this brand new episode where we're talking about one of the most burning topics of the time that I know every student is facing sleepless nights and a lot of anxiety about, which is CLAT 2020, the most awaited event for every law school aspirant. You've been waiting for it for, with bated breath since when it was scheduled to happen in May. And after that, there have been a successive set of delays in the CLAT exam that was scheduled to happen this year due to the pandemic, the ongoing pandemic. And now to add to it, we had a sudden, change that took place, and which again was a change that nobody had envisioned that could ever happen, which was NLS pulling out of the CLAT and starting its own exam called the NLAT. So definitely there's been a lot of controversy around the CLAT. A lot of people have been talking about how badly managed it has been this year. But more than anything, I think it was so important for us to organize a session where we could address the anxiety, the frustration, and the thoughts that must be going on in a student's mind. I'm quite sure, the 100 plus audience joining us today, each of you would have dreamed to go, to go to the most premier law schools that we have in the country. And due to these successive changes that have been happening, either due to circumstances which are in the consortium's control or not in the consortium's control, I know it must be taking a toll on you. You must be, for the people who have been preparing for two years, definitely most of you would have been preparing for at least a year. I know it must be getting so frustrating. So a lot of thoughts must be going on in your mind. So, that's what, we were thinking when we were putting together this session, that, why don't we bring one of the biggest CLAT influencers of our time to talk to you, to address your concerns, to probably motivate you again. You guys have just finished the NLAT. Some of you would have had a good experiences. Some of you, as we've been reading, have not had such great experiences. So motivate you again before you take up the IELTS exam and the CLAT exam. So who better than, Mr. Rajneesh Singh, the founder of CLAT Essentials. He's a graduate of IIT Dhanbad and the Banaras Hindu University. He's been around for the longest time. He understands how the CLAT exam works. And I know a lot of you guys have been tuning into his social media and into his other YouTube sessions that he does, where he talks about how to effectively prepare for CLAT. So thank you so much, sir, for taking out the time and being with us today. I think, the students will very deeply benefit from your insights that you will share with us today.
I hope so. Thank you so much, Kritika. Thank you so much for inviting me. And I'm very happy that we will try to address some of the concerns of the students.
Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. And just to give you an idea of what the session is going to be like today. So what we're going to be doing is now we're going to be doing a moderated set of questions with Mr. Singh, where I'm going to be asking 10, commonly asked, frequently asked questions. In the meantime, I know all of you guys have already discovered the chat box feature. All of you guys are posting your messages and queries there. Make sure you're asking us a lot of questions there, because we have specially reserved time towards the end for audience Q&A round. So I will make sure that I take all your questions and I will pose them to Mr. Singh. So Mr. Singh, let's first just, address the elephant in the room. So I think before we get into CLAT, I think, most of these kids would have written the NLAT. And, I'm already seeing a lot of questions about, what is the cutoff going to be for NLAT? And second, for the students who have not had such a not so good experience and might be very demotivated, because as we know, NLS Bangalore is the dream school for all law school aspirants.
Correct.
Right? So how do they now go back, just align their mind again and just seriously prepare for CLAT 2020? So if you can address cutoff, and if you can address, how to get self-motivated again. Over to you, Mr. Singh.
Yeah. As far as NLAT is concerned, I would say at least the chaos is over. This is one good thing. Let's talk about some positive things also today. Whatever a sudden a call was taken by NLSIU Bangalore to conduct a test. Definitely, it was very, very painful for all of you to take it suddenly. The problem must have been it's a new type of exam. It's an exam which was a very short duration. There's no doubt about it that luck was definitely a factor. There were a lot of things into your mind. A lot of glitches happened. A lot of people faced a lot of torture. I agree to all of that. But if you see from the NLS point of view, let's assume that what they did, it was their call. But yes, to my mind, it was definitely a blunder. I think there wouldn't have been any problem had they simply conducted a CBT test at an exam center. That would have solved all the problem. We don't know what exactly is the conflict and what they are doing. At least for this year, if there was an extra exam, that was absolutely fine. But yeah, in long run, that was not possible because then every NLU would have started taking exams. Now, as far as your take is concerned, there might be a lot of queries right now. A lot of you might be very confused about it. See, NLAT is done now, and the time for CLAT is very, very less. ALET is 13 days away, and 15 days away is CLAT. GK, the entire GK revision is very, very important, and it's very crucial to now start focusing and not to waste any time. So as far as let me answer a lot of your queries about NLAT. One very good thing is that at least NLAT, whatever you prepared, say you get through or you do not get through, or you never expected to get through, but you thought that let's take it as a lottery and experience. At least you got prepared a lot, right? You got a complete revision of your GK. The questions which is being asked is very similar to what CLAT will be asking. It is just that the number of questions and the format is different. So that does not matter actually. What you need to focus is that understand, in fact, that whatever you prepared, whatever NLAT has been asking, and whatever is the agenda of NLAT, and the objective is to test your analytical ability, your logical ability, or be it your GK, I mean aptitude, seeking aptitude, or be it your comprehending ability. These all, whatever you work these days for 8 days, you were focusing on NLAT. That is definitely an advantage for you. Now, the situation stands that you might be in a lot of dilemma. That even we were in a dilemma yesterday. That will the question be released? Will the answers be released? Will we get to know the marks as it was already announced? Because defining what exactly result is, court has already abstained the result. But I think result means the ranking and the publishing the the people selected in the for the all the 80 seats. So at least these marks you have come to know, and that might have created more of your anxiety. Now, let me tell you, there is a lot of uncertainty right now. Like say, whatever you, everyone cannot recall what you marked. There was a lot of questions which was actually randomly marked. And say, for instance, you must have calculated in this way, like, look, these 25 or 28 or 32 or 22 questions, I'm sure I have marked it correctly. Maybe there are some which is doubtful, you're not sure about it, what you marked, and particularly those which you randomly marked, because you were almost forced to mark randomly because there was a negative marking for non-attempted questions also. So in this situation, you know that there is a range of marks which you can say, whatever you are saying, and just 0.25 or 0.5 marks can change a lot of ranks. There might be a lot of overlapping in this short format of test where only 40 questions are there. So I mean, banking upon this, please do not frame any judgment on this. I got selected or did not get selected. As far as cutoff is concerned, I'll request you not to get into cutoff at all. I have been into predicting cutoffs, which is a very, very difficult task. For CLAT also, it becomes really very difficult. I do it to my best way. Even if I miscalculate and lose one parameter, miss out one parameter, it goes for a toss. So it's very, very difficult, and that too for just 55 seats, general category seats. It will be very misleading if I say that I can predict a cutoff. Not at all. Even had it been a very regular exam and well conducted, it was very difficult. But a rough estimate, definitely I'll tell you. But try to understand at present, the problem is that we don't know the exact marks. Number one, we don't know the equated marks. Because they are going to equate your marks depending upon the difficulty level, right? What is that? In case you want to understand, they have clearly mentioned that, and I'm very happy. See, all these things have been really good by NLS Bangalore. So equating means, say for instance, the first set has a average marks is 40. I'm just telling you, this is not the exact way. There are a lot of ways which LSAT does in a very different way. They do it question wise equating. Second one says for the paper number 2, it is 45 is the average marks of all the students who took in that slot. And for the third one is 50. So that means if they are balancing equating at 45, so those who are for the slot 3, their marks will get reduced. Those who are in slot 1, their marks will increase a bit. And then they will equate and that will become your final marks. Now, I'm not saying slot 3 was tough or easy. I don't know. I'm just randomly saying that slot 1, slot 2, slot 3. Everyone is saying that my slot was tough. So I really don't know. I haven't solved all the 3 papers also. I was just concentrating on the errors which students have projected. I'll be solving now. But as I see the paper, the entire paper, I cannot comment exactly how it is. But one thing is that your marks are not clear. The equated marks is not clear. You don't know this exam will be accepted or not, or it will be scrapped. And that is also actually on hold. Also, NLSIU also may come up with a 120 seats or 80 seats. That is also not clear right now. So prediction of cutoff is not actually possible, and a very high range I can give you that at least 50 marks doesn't seem to be getting Bangalore. This is what I feel so. And cutoff can be as high as 62. This is also difficult because there is a high possibility that there have been cheating. Don't go on just the videos, because videos might not be authentic. Even putting in court, it requires that to be proved, and that's a long procedure because and believing on a video is also not until unless you really check. What I'm saying, that apprehending that a lot of cheating has gone, that is based on what I have talked to all, and by my own wisdom, I can see that cheating was definitely possible if people wanted to do it. So that means in that case, maybe the cutoff might get into 70s. So I'm just telling you that this might be the range around 50 to 62, as high as it can go up to 62 also. But very few people genuinely would have scored 60 marks and above marks. It was quite a standard paper.
Thank you so much, sir. I think that would definitely give them a rough idea about, the cutoff that, rough cutoff that they can expect. So, we just ran a poll right now, and that, are you nervous about the upcoming CLAT exam? And 82% of our audience members said that they're quite nervous and quite anxious about the CLAT exam. And,
I can understand.
Yeah. So a lot of people are asking. So as of now, CLAT is scheduled for 28th of September. So we are exactly at 15 days away from the exam. What is the ideal CLAT strategy at this point of time, according to you?
I mean, CLAT is 15 days away, but 15 days is good enough time for a good revision of GK because you can't expect an enrichment right now, and you should not. Whatever you are, you try to just polish that particular thing. This would be the best strategy, and just feel positive. Whatever you did has not, I mean, your time has not got wasted. And whether you lose a seat or you do not get a seat, only anyway 55 would have got a seat, right? So you have to understand that anyway you would have you are actually dependent upon other seats only. And you have NLU Delhi and you have what you call CLAT. You have two very important exams coming up. NLU Delhi, NUJS Kolkata, and particularly Nalsar are equally good as there is no doubt about it. People come to know very late. I mean, because NLS Bangalore was say 10 years older school, so it got a what you call a big brother reputation. And then all those people who have passed the alumni, they say that okay, NLS is the only good law school and rest are not. So that particular thing, it took a lot of time to people to understand that at least there are 7 NLUs till GNLU, which is actually almost equally good. So, I mean, if NLS is gone out, and even if you come to Raipur or Patiala or Lucknow or Odisha, they have started doing amazingly well. A student getting 800 or 900 or 1000 rank is, they are actually very amazing. what is hardly there is any difference, somebody who is getting a 600 rank or getting a 32 rank. I mean, in aptitude wise, if you see, there are a lot of luck factors also on the D-Day. So, I mean, now take away your mind from NLAT, except that you can wait for 16th, what exactly the decision will come. Maybe the hearing is also on 17th, because arguments will go long, it is expected. It is also expected that we have another hearing day. After that, the judgment will come, and then let's see what guidelines are given to NLSIU. I'm sure whatever is given, they will give a good judgment, which is in long run, at least, it is not hassles for students. And as far as this test is concerned, whether they scrap the test or not scrap the test, some students will be in trouble, because if, say, someone gets selected and someone who's hoping a very good score, for them also it is a torture. But anyway, that part is gone. Let's move ahead. So as far as CLAT is concerned, you should take 26th and 28th. There are 2 days which are there. And 28th is something, I mean, when you finish your exam on 26th, which is, I think, in the morning session, so you have 1.5 days to revise for GK for CLAT. So you start from the backward, right? So that you have a very short plan that, okay, I'm going to revise these things, particularly GK, in those 1.5 days. Then plan in such a way that you are fully prepared for NLU Delhi, that is AILET exam. And maybe 5 days behind that, you start your final revision for GK. GK for AILET is little different, where you will have to also prepare for some of the MCQs, because it is not in the passage based. What is difference between these two? If you try to understand, when you are being asked about a passage based, as CLAT has been asking in the sample papers, this means that only 7 or 8 topics of GK will come, but there will be 35 topics which will be asked in AILET. There would have been 50 topics which was being asked. There would have been had CLAT had 50 questions. It means it had been reduced from 50 to only just 7 to 8 questions, and it also 7-8 topics, not questions, not only questions. So that means that whoever is setting the paper is most likely to set something which is actually quite important and which is going on. It's very less chance that they will deviate from some very, very important topics. Say there might be 10, 20, 30 professors who are setting this paper, whose questions will appear there, no one knows, but they are setting, and they may be giving, say, 4, 5 sets or 7, 8 sets. They must have been given an instruction as per guidelines, if you check the video also of CLAT, that they have to set some from all the fields, maybe 2 topics from politics and governance, 1 from entertainment and sports, one may be say art and history, 1 may be environment and geography, and so on, right? 1 from business and economy. Now that way they are setting the paper. So obviously, when they're just picking up 1 or 2 topics from each, they will not likely to go to a very less important topic, right? It means preparing for some very, very important 100, 200 or 300 topics based on whatever you have done so far, mainly those 60 to 100 or 80 topics, which is actually very, very important, that needs to be prepared very, very well. That should be a priority. You should actually put these things into 3 phases. The GK part, 1 will be 26 to 28th, or maybe 26 and 27, in fact, after AILET. And then say 21st to 25th, you have 5 days. And from now to 21st, so in now to 21st, maybe you can do some enrichment in your notes of these important topics. Otherwise, if you have lesser time, then just focus on revision, whatever notes you have produced. If you do not have notes and directly done from a resource, you can go again, but that is not that good idea, because then it is quite elaborated. But then fine, I mean, if you don't have a choice, if you have not prepared the notes, you can directly go to the resource from where actually you have prepared, and or resources, whatever. But draw a mechanism by which you will be able to revise 3 times, and set a priority. If you keep a very good timeline, that exactly from which date to which date you are finishing what exactly, so that you are able to revise 3 times. Of course, after ALET, you can only revise important topics. You can't, right? But in these 2 phases, you should also solve a lot of MCQs. That is very helpful. You have websites like wifistudy.com, affairscloud.com, and several other websites from where there are a lot of MCQs are there. Even my website is there. My free app is there, CLAT Mock. There also you can find out a lot of tests are given. And it's all free as of now, as I have launched just now. So from there also you can solve a lot of questions. And MCQ is a very smart way to do it in a very fast way. Even if you have solved once, it will be good if you can, because see, it might take just 1 hour to 2 hours to cover, say, 600, 500 questions very, very quickly. And that can cover a lot of months. These MCQs are also, don't get mistaken that since it is a paragraph based, so MCQs are not important. It is a myth. It is actually, you must have seen in this para-based, they do deviate. In a sample paper, if you can recall, then ask about the journalist, right? That was a paragraph related to journalist. And then they deviated to asking, I think, commerce minister, something like that. So these important head of states of all important countries, chief ministers, governors, and all institutional heads like maybe ISRO, disaster management, then all these institutions which are very important, of course, cabinet ministers and all those UN bodies, who is heading, where is the headquarters. These are very evergreen questions which are there given in the MCQs, and these are always very important. So accordingly, you prepare this. There is one more thing for ALET. There were people who are very seriously prepared, and they have prepared notes each month, even before when CLAT announced this passage-based questions. So all those notes are, if you have already prepared, do keep some time for that also. That actually will help you a lot, in particularly in ALET actually. Right. So this was about the GK preparation. As far as other things are concerned, I think what is very much required is that maybe today itself or maybe tomorrow, you must take immediately a mock of 2 hours, which you might have missed out. Although I have been already suggesting that even during NLAT, if you're taking NLAT mock, that's fine. That is just a 45 minutes affair. You should have actually ideally continued taking CLAT tests also, because CLAT is much, much more important, right, than NLAT. And this is why now you should focus a lot in CLAT, giving a lot of importance to this, and start taking a lot of mock tests so that you are actually very much warmed up. Secondly, some of the section test also holds a lot of importance, because particularly, say, if you are a little weaker on comprehension, or you even for just to warm up, you need to take a lot of tests of reading comprehension, logical reasoning. Particularly reasoning will help a lot, and you also need to revise those chapters, something like which requires a revision, like syllogism, maybe a topic like clock or calendar, or all the mathematics topics, particularly data interpretation, which is very, very important. Yes, Kritika.
Thank you so much, sir. That was a very, very insightful answer. And I think you've given very useful tips to the students who are joining us. Now, one of the other major things that we all know that, since I've written the CLAT myself, time management is really important. And that, I think, is one of the keys to acing this exam. Like, you may be a pro at, all the sections, but if you don't manage your time well on the day of the exam, you might lose out on that good rank. So could you just talk about, a little bit about how we should manage our time between the sections? Ideally, how much time should, students give to each section? Because I think that is definitely one thing that's very important from a strategy point of view.
Perfect. Right. Being so successful, Kritika, you have pointed out the very right point. You did so well already in ALET and CLAT. Yeah, exactly. Like, see, if you see any smart students who have been topper, you may have seen a lot of people work very hard, and on the D day they don't perform, or in the mock test they don't perform. This is true with any job, any work you do. the time management and how actually you overall manage the test, particularly on the test day, becomes very important. It's extremely important. Now, if you check here, you have 2 hours. First of all, there is a myth that people are saying that this is now the CLAT is a lengthy paper. No, it is not at all. If you check the average text, the number of characters which has been or number of words, if you count, you will find out that these all papers, I'm taking the sample papers as an example, these all are little lesser than on an average what CLAT has been asking you. Can you imagine 50 questions of legal reasoning being asked, almost of one being of half pages? That used to be such a lengthy paper, and you are given just 2 hours the same. Why you are actually worried about that this is very lengthy paper? No, this is not. A common mistake what you do is you try to rush through, seeing that the paper quality is likely to be very, very good. You need to actually give a lot of importance to correct comprehending and focusing on the questions rather than rushing through. There's another myth that you try to finish the paper, and finishing the paper, that we all have been programmed in since our school that we have to finish all the questions. No, that is not the. In that case, what you do is this very important point. You need to listen to it. That say there are 20 questions left, right? And you had enough time, which you don't know how much you actually is your ability. Say, let's assume that you had ability to only attempt 10 questions. And if you attempt all 20, what would happen is 4 will go, 5 will go right, 15 will go wrong. Because you not only you did injustice to these questions, you did injustice with the new questions which you attempted. And if you go by your normal way, fine. I mean, you attempted only 10, maybe 8 correct and 2 wrong. Or if it is your bad luck, it's 7 right, 3 wrong. Still, it is much better. Now, so it is very important that you do not create a pressure on yourself to attempt all the questions. This is a very, very important thing. Now, as far as time allocation is concerned, sequence could be whatever you try to follow, whatever you have been following, and it has been. Don't try to change now. And say, for instance, you start with legal reasoning, right? And it is very suitable for you. Now, legal reasoning, when you have started, try to keep a upper limit. That's very, very important. Upper limit, what do I mean by? I'm not talking about the lower limit. Lower limit could be that you saw all the passages, and if you saw something weird has come and very or maybe the questions are very, very lengthy and it's very, very time consuming. It might so happen that you would like to see the other questions and shift and switch to say reasoning in just merely 10, 12 minutes or 15 minutes. This can happen if you are seeing most of the questions like that. Or in case it is quite normal and maybe according to your capability, you can finish in 35 to 40 minutes. Do not do that. Some of you are capable of finishing maybe in 25, 30 minutes, but keep a upper limit of around 30 minutes. That's very, very important. Why this is important? Because if you're not keeping the upper limit for first few sections, the problem would be that, say you continued for 45 to 50 minutes for the legal reasoning. Now, who knows, legal reasoning was the toughest section, and the section, say, reasoning, which you attempted towards the end, or maybe English, that turned out to be the easiest section. What would happen ultimately? That you were left out with just 22 minutes for reasoning, or maybe 18 minutes. Now you will try to hurry and finish all the questions. Now you can't be helped. And later, during the analysis, you analyzed that turned out to be. Now, in order to, since you do not know, you are in dark for the first one hour, you need to understand that you need to keep a buffer time till the end. And how to do that? If you're maintaining an upper limit, like it should be 30 minutes for legal, 25 minutes for English, 25 minutes for, say, reasoning, maybe 12 to 15 minutes for maths, and 10 minutes for GK, right? GK I'm not counting because obviously 8 to 10 minutes you will finish. If you're taking 12 or 14 or 18 minutes, that clearly means that unnecessarily you are killing a lot of your time by thinking about that thing. People who are really well prepared, they finish it in 7 to 8 minutes. Now, unless there are several times you have to go back to the passage because of the fill in the blanks, then it might consume 10 to 11 minutes. Now, this clearly means that if I add all these what you call upper limit which I was talking about, you will be left with 15 to 20 minutes. And in case you have shifted because of the section being very tough very quickly, then of course what you call that might be 30 to 35 minutes also might be left. But say for instance there was 15 minutes left, and you have left say 2 passages of reasoning, 1 passage of say English, and 3 passages or 2 passages of legal reasoning. Now you can decide in these 15 minutes, maybe I can attempt 2. Which are those 2 which are likely to be the easiest, you will be attempting. This way, it will ensure that you are leaving out those questions only which you estimated relatively to be on the tougher side, and you will not actually create a risk of leaving relatively easier questions, because you can't finish the paper in most of the time. You until unless the paper is very easy, then time management is not actually required. It is just in one sequence you are able to finish the paper. But if it is a standard paper, little different to what it has been coming, a little time consuming, so particularly for the first 1 hour is very crucial, because you don't know the paper. Yes, when you are in the 4th or 5th section, you know what the paper is, and that time you can take a call. You can stay in the same section and then or leave the because what you left for legal reasoning, for instance, in the beginning, that was actually turned out to be tougher. So you stay to the reasoning or say mathematics, whatever you are attempting, and you do not go back. So this way your time will be actually optimized. So this is how you can actually manage the time. Over to you, Kritika.
Thank you so much, sir, for answering that. So, there are two sections that, have definitely, like one section is not gone through an overall as such with the revision in the CLAT pattern, but generally is always a vague section for students, which is, logical reasoning. So in the last period, if you could throw about, what are the sort of revision that they can do for logical reasoning? Second is, as we know, there's a lot that has been changed in the legal reasoning section. Like you yourself said, see, IELTS has a completely different pattern. It's the same conventional pattern for legal reasoning. While CLAT has completely revised the way they're looking at legal reasoning, and it's become very content heavy. So if you could throw some light on that, specifically these two sections, what are the important pointers one must keep in mind while preparing in the last 15 days?
Yeah. See, there's one thing which is very much required is your reasoning skill in both the sections, legal reasoning or reasoning section. That skill cannot change much. Whatever, I'm sure all of you are well prepared on that, and that skill has been already developed. Let me begin with legal reasoning. If I check the previously, there was just one difference. The principle which have been coming was mostly repetitive, right? It is the rule or whatever the principle is, which is given in different forms. If you see NLS Bangalore, very previous papers, when even you have to write the reason there, and it was manually checked. That time also they used to intermingle the principle between a passage. So they don't really mention like a principle. Even in NLU Delhi, 1 year I saw few questions were there where principle was not mentioned, but a rule was mentioned somewhere in between. So that may happen this year also. But say it seems that NLU Delhi will continue with such thing, although they have not released any sample paper. NTA is going to conduct the exam. It might so happen that they might taken the help of NTA also, because they have been also conducting all major exams and aptitude based. So one thing I would advise about AILET that although it is not expected that there will be a major change, but keep in mind you might have some new questions. AILET has been always experimenting, but let's assume that if such questions are coming, so the difference was that their repetitive or repeated principles are given there. So this is why we were also teaching you concepts of tort or a little bit of tort, a little bit of contract, so that you become familiar. Why it was taught? For 3 reasons. It was taught to you so that you become so familiar with these things that you don't do much mistakes. But mainly it was to save your time. It was not that your reasoning skill still will hold good, and it will be needed for solving such questions also. But the thing is that if you know certain things beforehand, your accuracy as well as speed, mainly speed, will enhance a lot, and that is why it was being taught. Now CLAT, what is asking is, it is not giving you that opportunity. It is giving you all new current affairs sort of things, where some legalities or some law or some principle or some rule is given within that passage, and based on that you have to solve the question. So this is the basic difference. So what you need to do in these 15 days is must revise all the principles and some of the basics. How it can be revised? The smartest way and the quickest way to revise is that solve some questions of CLAT and ALET on the old pattern. It is just merely 4-5 section test, or if you can, then 10-20 section test are definitely to be taken in the old pattern. That will definitely also help you for CLAT. Don't get mistaken that if CLAT is asking in a different way, ultimately CLAT is also asking for the the same purpose, right? Reasoning. Now your reasoning mind, your logical mind is being tested through legal reasoning, and legal reasoning is in fact the best way to test your reasoning mind, logical reasoning mind. So this is why you need to solve those sort of questions also. For CLAT, you don't need to do much. What you can do is, for legal reasoning for CLAT, that some of the legal topics, particularly the current affairs topics, you need to go a little deeper. And that is going to also help you with current affairs. So while preparing for current affairs, you need to actually do that. As far as logical reasoning and analytical reasoning is concerned, as I said that, definitely you must take a lot of section test, which is I mean, you can take verbal reasoning and analytical reasoning separately, or maybe together if you have some sets given by some institutes, or a lot of tests are free of cost at the websites also. That also you can take. It is in abundance, and those questions, if you take under time constraint and at least take some around 15-20 tests, that will also help you a lot, because reasoning, particularly analytical reasoning and puzzles, requires a lot of warm up. Your mathematics and see, verbal reasoning and legal reasoning, if you leave for some time, it can stay there with you. That ability is mostly tested. But for mathematics, particularly DI and analytical reasoning, you must take up a lot of section tests for the warm up, because I'm sure after, if you leave for some time, your ability goes down.
Thank you so much, sir. I think, all these tips that you're giving are extremely useful. It makes me think, when I was writing the CLAT and IELTS, I wish somebody was there, to talk to us like this, because we were also so confused. And that year also the pattern had changed, and actually we had no mock papers to even consult. So, the other question that I'd like to ask you is also this. A lot of students are confused and would like to know, from the top of your mind, do you think there are certain topics which necessarily students must cover in the GK area and the legal reasoning area? Because especially now in legal reasoning, a lot of the items that will be picked up are the current legal developments that are
correct.
So from the top of your head, do you think there's certain things which definitely they should make it a point to revise in this period?
Yeah, I'm sure all of you must have been already got some lists, and you might have prepared your own list, which are very important topics. But as I was saying that, one thing you should look at, that also divide some area wise, because you might have ignored, maybe in case of geography or environment. So when we talk about environment and geography, then all the summits, environment summits, becomes very important. That can be a very important topic. Wildfire, on Australia wildfire, that was covered in the first sample paper. That sort of issues. A lot of disasters have happened, natural disasters, that must be covered. And if you take the politics and governance, which will be the most important thing, then you have a lot of issues going on, like India, China. Now, when I say India, China, then do prepare. See, the best way to prepare is, you should think about it, that what could be asked related to India, China. Just don't stick to only the border issue which is going on. It might so happen that the premiers, very simple questions, who is head of the state or something like that, or holding some very important post, that might be asked. The trade between India and China, how it got affected, the volume of the trade, that becomes very important. The history, then a lot of static GK is also related. The visit of Chinese premier here coming to India, that is also holds good. And recently, if the border issue is very, very important, obviously getting back to all the wars and other issues which has happened with China, and all the India-China relationship, that also becomes very important. Another thing, like India and Nepal, there are a lot of issues which has gone on, we have gone through. So as far as the India Nepal thing is concerned, a lot of questions may be asked related to the history of India Indo Nepal relationship, right from when Nepal was formed during the Britishers, from their Sugauli treatment. So, since then, whatever has happened, you can start covering. In case your notes are not so enriched, then do enrich at least these topics which are very, very important. And you should enrich all these topics in case it is not enriched, particularly those legal reasoning, as Kritika was saying, is actually very important. If you say that the passage which you are reading for legal reasoning question, as a legal, you will have around 8 passages. Just imagine if that passage has been already read, and or that matter has been read by you already. Say for instance, they are covering Consumer Protection Act. All these topics are very, very important. Say National Education Policy, which has come now. If you have really read that, just imagine your speed will be almost 3 or 4 times faster, and your comprehending will become actually very accurate. So that will definitely help. Like for similar to if you know the principle of vicarious liability beforehand, definitely you save a lot of time. You just within few seconds you understand what exactly this is. Otherwise, it takes around a minute to understand fully. Particularly, you must have seen that principles are usually written in a clumsy language. So, I mean, preparing these current affairs should take your 50 to 60% of your preparation time right now, because these 15 days must be devoted mostly to GK. Yes.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, so the other question, back in my days, we didn't have negative marking, but now, students are battling with issues of negative marking. So keeping negative marking in mind, what should their approach be to the paper? Because in our time, if I remember, it was always this, that you need to get in as many questions as possible. So even if you don't know the answer or you have run out of time, and not like, there is any scientific logic to it, but people used to say, "Acha, tukka maar ke just mark C." Because it is a good probability. Just, these silly student misconceptions. But
Very
now,
important question. Yeah.
But now with negative marking, what should their approach be? Like, you don't know an answer to the question, what should you do?
Yeah. If there is no negative marking, obviously all answers must be marked. This is what the policy is in all the exams. But as far as if the negative marking is concerned, I'll tell you one thing. I was without any preparation on the graduating year, I took CAT, the Common Admission Test, which is for the IIMs, and I was not at all prepared. It was just without preparation I went there, so I had nothing to lose. It was just an experience which I was getting. So I remember there used to be 155 questions. As I remember, there were 55, 55, 55. 3 sections: reasoning, maths, and reading comprehension. Now, based on my own strength, what I did was I knew that the cutoff was, and this is a CAT was used to be a standardized exam, not very fluctuating, like level of the paper, everything used to be almost similar. So around 70 marks used to be the cutoff for getting top IIMs calls. So what I did was I just went there and I attempted around maybe 70 or 80 questions, which with good accuracy. But I knew that maybe I might be getting 55 or 60, but I will be definitely missing the cutoff by 10, 15 or 17 or maybe 18 marks or 20 marks, which is huge. So what I did was, let's take a risk. I randomly marked all the rest of the questions, right? Which turns out to be almost 70, 80 questions. And I calculated, I don't remember exactly 1/4 or 1/3 negative marking was there, but whatever was there, but I calculated that if I randomly mark, then every 16 questions probability says I'll get 1 mark, because it was in our favor. It was not neutralized. What do you mean by neutralized? If there are 5 options, then 1/4 should be the negative marking. CLAT gives you 1/4 negative marking, but there are only 4 options. Actually, that is in your favor. So how you can utilize, I'll tell you. I'll just complete what I was saying, my story. So I did that randomly. I did mark. That was happening since many years. That day what they did, cat people are very smart. They introduce a progressive negative marking without actually announcing that. So progressive negative marking means for the first 10 you have this, for another 10 you have, and another 20 you have more negative marking. So ultimately I ended up getting maybe 30 or 40 marks. So I lost a lot of marks because of that. Now, coming back to CLAT, see, say you are marking 64 questions randomly, right? You have only 150 questions. So if you're marking 64 questions, probability, if it prevails 100%, which will never prevail, but let's assume that it prevails, you'll get 1/4 correct, which is 16 marks, and 48 will go wrong, which will give you -12. So ultimately, you're getting 4 positive marks, right? Now, 4 positive marks is very useful, and that too by randomly marking 64 will not take more than 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes for you. Now, those 64, that means every 16 you are getting 1 mark. That's actually CLAT should have kept 1/3 negative marking. Then what would have happened? For that 48, you would have got exactly -16. So if you're randomly marking, you are, overall, you are not in loss or gain, right? Where it is neutralized. So it is not in your favor. Now, does that mean that you will randomly start marking? No. Even see, the probability never prevails 100%. It will be, but it will be somewhere there. Say all those 150 marks, if you randomly mark, you will be getting around 9 or 10 marks. But this will not happen all the time. Not exactly the probability. What would happen is it will range between 5 to 15 marks, depending upon your luck. Obviously, 5 and 15 will be very, very rare, but then it will hover around mostly around 9.5 marks. Now that means what should be our take? But since out of 150 in a standard paper, usually for getting a top 5, top 10 or top 3 law school, your attempt would be around 90, 100, 110 or 120, something like that, depending upon how tough or easy the paper was, because nothing is fixed. It means that even the topper, or so those who are highest performer, will be leaving out 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 questions, 30 questions. Some of the questions will be that of the GK, which you are forced to leave and there is no other choice. Some of the questions you will leave because you could not solve, and some of the questions you will be solving because of the paucity of time, or you chose very correctly and you really optimized your time and you left the right question which actually should have been left, which was relatively tougher for you, right? Now, if everything cannot be marked, what should be done? There are two things. One is towards the end. Towards the end, if say only the paper is very tough and you have attempted 80, so what I did, you can mark the rest of the 70, but I will not recommend this officially. You can take your own risk. But I know if 70, if you mark, it will give you around 4 to 5 marks, right? If it is a very tough paper, you can play this, but you should mark a lot of, you can test yourself that is marking 50 or 70 randomly with any paper you choose. Is it always coming a positive mark? You will be surprised. It is actually always a positive mark because of the same reason. But do not take my words, check yourself and do it, because this is very difficult to believe whenever I say this, because I have studied probability several times in my economics, PG economics, during BA economics. I had a statistics there as a subject, and even during MBA. So that way I have studied probability very closely. According to my understanding, this can be done, but fine. But second thing, what mostly comes is during the paper, right? When you're writing. So say a question comes. Some of you actually make a mistake of being very hesitant in marking a question. As I said, that it is little in your favor. That does not mean you will start randomly marking. It means that even if say one option you are able to rule out, then probability of getting is actually quite high. But it surely means that if you are able to rule out 2 options and you're very confident that these 2 are not answered, don't leave that question, even if you're not very sure about that within these 2 options, which one is the answer, randomly mark it. But if your gut feeling says that, okay, right, this one would be is most likely to be the right answer, then do mark that one without any hesitance. So during the test, whatever the guesses, intelligent guesses, sometimes what happens that you have very lesser time, and you have a call on, say, attempting 2 or 3 questions, or let's take another entire passages. A lot of you must have already developed this, and you can try this, that skim the passage very fast, check the questions which can be at least answered without reading the passage much, and start. There your guessing and intelligent guessing will start. But that does not mean but that only and only when it works. So maybe you can take that risk, provided keeping in mind that this negative marking thing is little in your favor, and a little bit of risk can be taken, mainly when you are able to rule out some of the options, then definitely it can be taken. So this is how you can manage the negative marking thing. And don't be fearful about the negative marking, not at all. In fact, don't think about the negative marking, but think about the positive part. Like for NCLAT, people were saying that if we leave the question, we'll get only 0.5, but if we attempt, we'll get 0.5 minus. No, they were not thinking about that. They can get +2 marks also. So don't be afraid of negative marking. There is a balance, and there is a thin line between that. That I showed you, that within the options, if 2 options you can rule out, definitely mark the answer. But if you are able to rule out only 1 option, then you should not. And one more very important thing, when you are you're very unsure about, and you're little hesitant about, and you're not actually getting the question, never ever make a guess. The reason is, questions are mostly designed in this way, that if your concepts are not clear, you are little half-hearted, then those trapping all the options are there. You are actually putting yourself and you are increasing the probability of getting a wrong answer to 90%. So it is better to randomly mark when 2 of the options are getting ruled out, rather than making a foolish guess. Yes, Kritika, over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. So, I think another question that, a lot of students will face because of the uncertainty is also this, that should they drop a year? So what is your, advice to those students, that is it wise to drop a year, and, whether it's really, worth their time? So what do you think about this?
Okay, dropping a year is your personal call. It all depends upon how much confident you are, and wasting 1 year, or utilizing 1 year, I say in another way, for a better law school, is your call, definitely. But I would say, in brief, if I have to explain you, like there was one guy, I forgot his name. He's studying in NLS Bangalore. He was confused between. In fact, I had one student in Dusan also last year. Both of them studied from RG Unil Patiala. So they were getting around 700-800 rank. Now they had a call that should I take admission, or should I take a drop, or say I'm getting SLS Noida, or I'm studying in a law school somewhere and preparing, or should I take a complete drop? Now, I always advise that do take a law school, although it is more difficult to prepare, but do take a law school. And it was quite possible that you will realize that after some time, that okay, this law school is good enough for me to make a good career, and I don't need to take CLAT next year. That also may happen. The best part is that you will not have a lot of anxiety and a lot of pressure upon you, that no, I have to perform this year, otherwise I lose another 1 year. This you can only do, some of you can do it, if you really have very good potential, and you check yourself that it was just a mere luck that you did not get some very good law school, and you are very confident that at least top 10 law school, or top 15 or top 20 law schools I'm definitely getting, then I can definitely should try for top 3 year. Then you can take that drop. And also, complete drop should be only taken when you have the capability of taking a risk, you're confident enough that even if 1 year goes and you're still getting the same college, then I'll not repent for it. Because I'll tell you, in your entire life, in your career, actually you need just 1 or 2 or 3 good phases in your life to proceed, to become very successful. So even if you're losing 1 or 2 years, it doesn't matter much until unless it is a government job. But then, as I said, that this is truly personal call. If you are getting influenced by someone and taking a call, later it can become a very big mental torture for you. So as I've seen my personal experience, only 10% of you or 5% of you have the guts to take this. Do think a lot. So majority of you, I have seen that it is always better to take admission in a law school. And it is a big myth. A lot of people, like say there was doesn't have All India's batch has only 12 seats. And I remember one guy from NUJS, he got through NUJS, and for just getting Bangalore, he pressed me, and he pressed me so much that I had to take him in the Dusan batch. And I knew that it is not a practical thing. And ultimately, he did not take CLAT. So the thing is that sometimes you have a passion that no, I have to get only Bangalore or only top 3 or top 5. I think fine. I really appreciate and your goal. Your goal should be always to get a good college, not a particular college. Trust me, if you are anywhere in any college, which is a good college, even a private college, which you don't sometimes you don't consider. Some of you have a fallacy that I will get only top 5 or top 7 or top 10, then only I can do. No, it is a big myth. If you're really doing well and your college is good enough to carry on well, if the curriculum is good, teachers are good, your development is good, students around are good, then it is good enough that you can achieve anything. So that particular fallacy that no, I wanted only top 5 or top 3 and I got through. Say, I see a lot of people. I was addressing first year, second year, third year students in RGUNL Patiala. I didn't see that. I don't feel that they are very proud of what they have got. I said that you have got on an average rank, you have 600. You should actually feel proud about it. So I mean, and they were mainly the first year student. So this is very important to understand that whatever you are getting is very precious, and do take that law school. Even if you are getting, say, missing out, say 2000 rank and you're not getting an NLU, there are a lot of private law schools in India. Some of them are very new and they are coming up very, very well. And they are giving much better education than NLUs. It is just that NLUs are attracting some of the best students. So that is definitely an advantage, because being along with, among good students is definitely a priority. But there are a lot of private law schools who have students of top 5,000 rank, and getting a top 5,000 rank out of 70,000, I feel this is also a big achievement. So before taking a drop, make sure that it is your personal call and you have that guts to face whatever comes there. It is always safe to take a law school, and then you have, I think, within law school also, you have enough time to prepare by sacrificing some of the activities. You can take that. So I would advise, it depends upon person to person, but I advise mostly to most of you, taking instead of taking a complete drop, you should take a law school and then prepare.
I totally agree with you. So I think, somewhere we get so consumed with the idea of, doing well in the exam that we lose sight of, why.
Exactly. I agree.
We're doing it because our dream is not to get into the law school, but to be a very good lawyer.
Right. Absolutely correct. This is what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
If one can enhance their employability, who will stop them from being a success?
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. And I think
it's just that NLS Bangalore guy may be getting a better facility or more opportunity. But does that mean that a person who is studying in, say, Tamil Nadu Law School cannot achieve that? It's actually, and that guy also must have got, say, 1200, 1400, 1800 rank. That is a huge achievement.
Right. No, so you're absolutely right. I think we just lose sight of that. Plus, we have access to all this information. So I think it's very important for students to even understand, what is the curriculum that the law schools are offering. Because, like you very rightly said, a lot of the private law schools are offering very forward-looking curriculums, which are actually better than the national law universities. Like being from National Law University Delhi myself, from the BA LLB honors program, I do know, the fact that there are obviously there's nothing that can beat the fact that the NLUs have a great peer group. I mean, you have students, who are very, very, very motivated. And so that is definitely an advantage. But that's not the only thing that takes you a long way in the profession. It's also about, what subjects you've been exposed to, what has your understanding been of the law during law school. And I think that is also somewhere where students have to reflect and actually spend some time researching, and they'll understand that, there is a lot of merit in what the other law schools are also doing. So thank you so much, sir, for that. And I see that, we have almost run out of time. So I'm just going to quickly ask you for, your comments on two questions. First, do you think that, what is going to be the difficulty level of this time's CLAT paper? What does your hunch say? And, second is, we have some students who are writing into us that, I'm going to start preparing from now for CLAT. So do you think it's doable, not doable? So your quick comments on this.
Yeah, I see that definitely it won't be a very easy paper like we had in 2016. We had a very easy paper in 2010, CLAT, and the last year. Like last year was terribly easy. So this kind of paper you are not going to have. That is for sure. Now it is between a little on the tougher side, or maybe a standard paper just above average paper, which will be a very good paper for everyone. Because ultimately, from the objective of a law school or CLAT, their objective is fulfilled when they are able to segregate good and bad quality students in terms of the aptitude. That test is very good. For you all, you should not think in terms of level of difficulty. You should learn how to handle a difficult test and a average test, because easy it's not going to be. So what you need to do is you should take, I've seen a lot of good students, they are able to handle the above average or average test. The moment is difficult test, you start faltering in the time management, which Kritika has rightly reminded me. So if it's a difficult test, you should understand that the cutoff will go low. You need to attempt lesser. You should have that. Obviously, we all are human beings. So if you're not able to crack questions regularly in that sequence, you start feeling little diffident. It's fine. But that is what you have to learn, that during those difficult times, you need to hold strength and try to understand that it is the cutoff is going to be low, and don't try to attempt everything. Then you start pressurizing yourself. Okay, my attempt is going low, now you need to attempt more. And try to check if your accuracy is going very bad, pretty bad, 60%, 50%. That clearly means that you are attempting more questions than your capability. So it's very important. I think the average, above average, or maybe a little on the difficult side. It should not be a very difficult paper as their announcements are. You need to accommodate and adapt to whatever difficulty level is there.
Thank you so much, sir. And last question, which I'd asked you, which is, do you think that students can start preparing for it starting from today?
They should. Actually, now they should think a lot of whatever has happened has given them a lot. The good thing is that the court is intervening. If really some bad things have gone and a lot of unfair means have happened, let's leave it to the court. They should actually pass a good judgment, and the rest you can't actually expect what the cutoff will be. So let's not waste time in that part. It's very, very important to focus now on CLAT. You have very, very limited time. I just gave you the timing. It's just 1.5 days after ALET. Before ALET, 5 days, you can keep a phase. And this phase from now, that is 13th to 21st, you have just 7 or 8 days left. So time is almost gone. You need to immediately start preparing. You can start right now.
Right, absolutely, sir. As the poll indicates, I need not say anything else. 100% of our, attendees say they've completely enjoyed the session. You can see,
Okay, that's great.
there are so many positive comments that are coming, that are flooding our chat box, where people are saying that they've benefited deeply from the session. So thank you so much, sir, for taking out the time and actually joining us today, and very patiently clarifying the doubts of each of these students. I definitely think, someone who, is experienced, who has written the CLAT, who's gone to National Law School and come out of it, I see the merit in what you have done today. And, how much of fruit it's going to definitely bear to them, especially in the last leg of the preparation, because these are very important tips and tricks that they can definitely use. So I know a lot of people have been asking me, can we see a recording for this session? Guys, like I said, I've shared the link of our YouTube channel with you guys. So make sure you're tuning into our YouTube channel, where there'll be a full recording that will be available of this particular webinar. So make sure you're subscribing and following our channel. Also on the same channel, you will see that, we have a dedicated playlist, which is called the CLAT Masterclass series, because as we all know, since the pattern has been revised, there have been a lot of doubts in their minds. So actually, we rounded up all the CLAT toppers who have, done dedicated sessions explaining how to ace each of those sections. So make sure you're tuning in, following, and actually listening to those particular episodes available on YouTube, which are freely available, because I think they'll definitely help you in making better your preparation. With these words, this is me, Kritika Padode Bhandari, signing off. We'll be back again with a brand new episode talking about, different issues that affect the youth, because that's what this platform is for. Thank you so much, Rajneesh sir, for taking out the time and with us today.
Thank you, Kritika.
This was truly a lot of fun, and I think this has definitely greatly benefited our audience. So thank you so much again, sir.
Thank you so much.
So much to the viewers for taking out the time and joining us today. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.